Hello everyone and welcome back to Just Finished Coding. This is part 2 of our Sprite series on Pygame, so without further ado, let's get right into it.
Just finished coding.
Before I get into the main loop, I'm going to add one line of code, and that is to make sure that the mouse hides, because it's going to be pretty odd if we can move the mouse and the image is shown at the same time. So you can just add one line of code after you have your clock set up, and that is p.mouse.setVisible, and you have to type in a boolean value right here, and I'm just going to type in false so that the mouse is hidden. A quick interjection here: if you've not watched part 1, please watch it before you come here, because evidently I'm picking up from where I left off in part 1. So if you just come here and watch the video, you will be very lost. I'll leave a card for you right here. Please watch the video and then come right back. If you're still here, I'm going to assume that you've watched part 1, in which case let's continue with our main loop. So I'm going to have a boolean variable called run, which is going to control the loop, and you can set run to be true initially. So run equal true, and after this let's start our loop. So I'm going to say while run, and here obviously it's Pygame, so we need to have the events set up before we get into the actual code. And I'm going to do the clock first. So I'll say clock.tick, follow that up with a 120, which is going to be our frame rate, and the events. So I'm going to say for event in p.event.get, and what this is going to do is, if you know Pygame, you should know this, but this is going to get us a whole list of events. So for event in pygame.event.get, and here you're going to get, like I said, the event types, and you can just say if event.type is closed, and you can just type that in as if event.type is equal p.quit with capital letters, then we will just be exiting the loop. So I'm going to say run is equal to false, and the loop is going to end, but we also need to make sure that our program ends. So after the outside the loop, I'm going to set, I'm just going to say p.quit, which is going to quit our Pygame window, and the program's going to end here, so we don't have to add in an additional quit. So once you have this in place, now you can just move on to your main code, and here is where sprites start to come in really handy. And instead of, just doing the whole update thing, you can just, instead of, just saying mouse.update, you can just type in mouse group.update instead. And here you can start to see the power, because imagine we had multiple sprites within that group. Instead of having a for loop and putting all of them within a list and then looping through that list and updating each item of that list, we can just have one smooth command which is going to update all of it. So that's where sprites start to really show their use, and this alone is not going to show us any substantial output. We also need 2 lines of code before this and 1 line after this. So the 2 lines before this, first we need to make sure that we have a background that we can draw on, and to do that I'm going to set the background color to be a slight lightish blue color, and not win.fill. I need to type in win.fill, which is going to fill our surface with a color, and this is going to be an RGB color, and I'm going to set the color to be 00,125, so a half blue color. And this alone, like I mentioned, is not going to be enough, and we need 2 lines of code above this, and we need to draw this on top. So we need to have the surfaces drawing on top of each other, because as of now, like, the image is just a surface. So to specify the layers, we need to just say mouse group dot draw, and here you can just type in the surface which you will have to draw on, and that is going to be the window. And this alone will not give you an output because we haven't updated the display. So I'm going to say p.display.update, and this command should be enough to actually show some output. So I'm going to hit the run key and wait for a while, because this is going to take a second to run in my editor. And yep, there we go. We have the introductory message, and a window should pop up pretty soon. And yeah, it's popped up in my taskbar for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but you can see that we have the caption set up properly, and we can move this shooter anywhere that we want. And once we move out, you can see that our mouse appears once again, and our program works pretty well. Now I'm going to program the alien class, and before I do that, I'm just going to copy all of this because our classes are going to be pretty similar. So I'm going to leave 2 lines and then just paste my code. And I will be changing this class name to be alien, and the the def init is going to be kind of similar, but we will have additional parameters. So we will have an x parameter, a Y parameter, and we will also have a costume parameter, which I'm going to have first. So just type in costume there to make sure you understand that, and this is all we need. So within our images, we'll have this within an if then. So I'm going to say if costume is equal 1, then we will load the first costume, which is going to be called 1.png, and you can see that right here, and I'm just going to type that in. So 1.png, and I will be transforming the image just like I did, but I'm going to change the layout. So this is going to be 96,80, sorry, not 496, but 96,80, and I'm obviously going to put this within the if then loop. So I will just be tabbing this in. There we go, and this is going to be within our if then, and I can see that some error is showing up, and that is because I didn't put this within quotes, which you definitely need to do. So this is going to be your first if then, and for your second if then, I'm just going to have an elif instead of an if, and I'll just be editing my code, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so my code was getting a bit messy right there, and I thought it was better I do this and then start the video once again. So if this is not the case and the costume is actually 2, because that's the only other thing that it can be, we will just be saying self.image is equal to p.image.load, but instead of loading 1.png, we will be loading 2.png, and those two images I will show you in a minute after I type my code. Just type in 2.png, and this should be the image that we'll be loading if the costume is 2, and we'll load this if the costume is 1. Pretty neat images, and that is all we need. So after you have this in place, you can see that we have some line of error showing up, and it says the code is unreachable, but I'll be fixing that in a minute. So after that, I will be transforming the image as well, and I'm actually just going to copy paste this entire command here so that it makes things easier for us. So instead of loading that, I'll be loading in 2.png, and here I'll be changing the size to be 112,80. So I guess the reason that this isn't showing up is because we didn't type a condition within our elif statement, and instead of doing that, I'm just going to type in an else, which is going to allow us to access our code, since if the costume is not 1, the only other thing it can be is a 2. Just so that you know, an elif costume is equal 2 would work the same way, but I just think that this is going to be way simpler. So we have a getRect command right here, but this alone isn't going to be enough because we also need to tell it some place to go, which is why we have an x and y parameter here, and which is also why I'm going to remove this parameter, the image parameter. And to make sure that the program knows where to go, I'm going to do a very similar thing. So I'm going to say self.rect.center is equal to, and instead of typing in the mouse.getPos, which we did here, we can just type in x, y. So it'll go wherever we want it to. And a brackets is very important here because this value needs to be passed in as a tuple. So once you have this in place, that is all you will need to get into your, not your main loop, before your main loop, and start declaring or creating some objects. So I'm going to create a group before I go into the object, and I'm going to call this group an alien group. So I'm going to say alien group is equal to p.sprite.group, just like I did for my mouse group. And after this, I'm going to enter into a for loop because I want to have 10 aliens on my screen. I'm going to say for a in range 0, 10, and you actually don't even have to type in the 0 because by default the first value is going to be 0. So I'm just going to say for a in range 10, and here I'm going to say alien is an object, so alien is equal to alien followed by an open parentheses, and here within our costumes we can start to use the random module. So I'm going to set the costume to be random.randint, and it's going to be 1 or 2, so just 1, 2, and here you can just copy this and just paste that in here because we will be using the same command or same method for the other parameters as well. So as far as our x parameter is concerned, I want it to be somewhere within the stage, but I want it to be under, under this maximum. I want it to be under the maximum width and height. Just so that you know, our costumes do also mean that we know our image width and height, but I'm not going to get into that really. I'm just going to start with the starting parameter as 40 for the x-axis and the ending as not 440, as 680 in the x-axis. And as far as our y-axis is concerned, I'm going to go ahead with 40 once again, and the second value in this particular range is going to be 440. So just subtracted I've just subtracted 40 from these two values, and that's going to be pretty much it. It's not going to be the most accurate filter that we can use, but it's going to serve its purpose. So after this, we need to add the alien to the group. So I'm going to say alien group dot add and follow that up with an alien. So this is going to add in stuff to the group, and just the way we did for our mouse group, we can do the same thing for the alien group, but the alien group needs to be done on top of the mouse group. So after this, I'm going to duplicate this command, and I'm going to say alien group dot draw followed by win. And oops, I didn't mean to set the caps lock to be yes. You can set alien group dot draw, follow that up with a win, and then you can update the alien group as well. And yep, here's where I got confused myself. The alien group is not going to have an update command, unlike the mouse clicker group, because the alien group is just going to be stationary. It's not going to be doing some change every single second. So while we may be drawing the sprite, which we are doing right down here, we won't really update the sprite in any way, and you can just remove that second update command. I'm going to leave in a space just so that we know what is a draw and what is an update. But this should be pretty clear to you if you understood what I said. Now I'm going to set up the collisions, because if you remember from the intro, what we really want is when we click on that particular, the particular alien with our mouse pointer, then that alien is going to disappear. And to do that, I'm going to create a method within our mouse clicker itself, and this is going to be called def click. And this click method is going to have, I think, no parameters. And here we can use a very special command that's going to allow us to easily detect collisions between sprites. And that is going to be called p.sprite .Sprite Collide. And this is extremely useful. And here we need three different arguments to be passed in. The first one is going to be a sprite. Then we're going to have to type in the group, and then we're going to type in whether we want to destroy that particular item of the group or not. And the sprite which we're talking about is obviously the mouse, and not the mouse group, the mouse. And the group is the alien group, and this group is what is going to be detecting collision with the sprite, and whichever sprite of this particular group is colliding with the mouse is going to destroy itself if we type in a boolean value of true after this. If we type in a false, nothing is going to happen. We won't be destroying that item, but obviously we want to destroy that item, so we need to type in a true. And that is going to be pretty much it. So within this right here, you can see that we have a bunch of aliens within our group, and we're essentially going to be looping through the group and seeing and checking for collisions. So I'm going to hit the run key and wait a second while this runs. And okay, our thing comes up itself, and you can see that it's pretty messy already, and the collision is going to work like this. So now I'm going to have to change some stuff which I mentioned earlier, and that was because I for some reason made the same mistake which I urged you not to make, and I drew the aliens after I drew the mouse, which is kind of stupid because you need to draw it before. Otherwise you'll start to see output like what I saw earlier, where your mouse is going below the aliens. So just type that right here. And I also forgot to do one more thing, which is to set up that event, and we need to have that event work only when we are clicking. So within your events, you can just say if event.type is equal to p.mousebutton_down, and this is an extremely useful command which is going to detect if we are clicking the screen or not. And here I'm just going to type in mouse.click, which is going to access that method individually from the mouse itself. So that is pretty much all you need. You can save your program and type in run once again, and this time when we click the sprite, you can see that voila, the sprites hide. And obviously this isn't perfect. You can see that when we shoot, it deletes both the sprites at once, but you can fix this by creating a new pointer of yourself, and that pointer is going to go to the center of the shooter, and you can detect collision with that pointer instead of with the entire shooter. But this video is just intended to make sure that you understand how sprites work, and it isn't really a fully functional game. So within the next few weeks, I'll be creating a whole bunch of games that will be using sprites as a tool which is going to help our program become way more efficient than using just normal stuff in Pygame. And I'm going to end this series right here. If you've enjoyed the series, then please make sure you click on the video on your screen right here, and that'll take you to a brand new game segment. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next series.